If you're thinking about buying a home but don't know where to start, you're in the right place. I'm Janina, your Tampa real estate bestie, here to talk about one of those things that they don't teach you in school, the home buying process. So grab your cafecito and let's chat. So I'm going to give you the same analogy I give all of my buyers. Buying a house is like dating. Hear me out. So when you're dating, you're getting to know someone, you're going on dates, and you're trying to figure out, okay, is this the right person for me? So when you're looking for the right house, you're usually on Zillow or Realtor.com and you're swiping and you're looking. Eventually, you start to go look at homes to figure out which is the right home for you until you walk into that right home that makes your heart skip a beat. You put a ring on it, aka you write an offer, and then from there the seller decides if they accept or not, and you eventually hopefully get married, aka get to the closing table. Like dating, you might have to kiss a few frogs before you find the one. So the same thing goes for a house. When you're shopping for a house, you may or may not fall in love with the first one, and sometimes people do, but sometimes it takes a few before you find that right one. So please remember and keep in mind, buying a house doesn't happen overnight. It can take several months to even years. And I don't say that to discourage you, I say that to encourage you because you want to prepare and make sure you know what you're doing. Slow and steady wins the race. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's dive into the actual home buying process. What even is the first step and where do you start? So there's the first two steps are kind of interchangeable. I'm going to give you my recommendation and what I think you should do. Step number one is you should talk to a few different realtors, and I can do a separate video on what to look for in a realtor. But you want to hire someone that you know, like, and trust, or someone that comes highly recommended by a friend or a family member. So once you meet with this realtor and you decide to move forward and hire them, you are going to meet with them and hopefully have some sort of a buyer consultation where they walk you through the whole process and kind of explain, or customize a plan for you because every family, everyone is different. Okay, step number two, and this is why I say they're interchangeable. The first step I suggested was hiring a realtor. The second step is getting pre-approved. Now, it really doesn't matter too much if you get pre-approved first and then find your realtor or vice versa. It just depends on what you're most comfortable with. So for me, the second step would be to get a pre-approval. That is when you talk to a local lender and your realtor should be able to recommend someone if you don't have anybody. And that lender is going to sit with you and they're going to discuss all of the fun stuff, your finances, your debt to income ratio, your credit score, your work history, all that fun stuff. So once they have all those numbers, they're going to come back at you and say, hey, congrats, you are pre-approved for X amount. And whatever that pre-approval is for is pretty much your budget on what you can afford to buy. Now, keep in mind, just because a lender tells you you're approved for X amount doesn't mean you have to buy max or, max out that amount. What I always recommend is look at your monthly budget and see what you're comfortable with on a monthly basis. If that monthly number that you're comfortable at makes sense for where the pre-approval is, then that's where you should be looking at homes or that price range. And again, your realtor in partnership with your lender, you guys can have that conversation. Now you're probably wondering what happens if the lender comes back and says, wah, 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 we can't approve you right now. There are certain questions and things that a lender can talk to with you and tell you, hey, these are the things that you need to do to be able to get approved. Sometimes it looks like, improving your credit score, paying down some debts, pay increases, or saving up some cash. It really is all just going to depend on your personal financial situation. So there are instances where you can't get pre-approved, but I always say don't let that discourage you. Ask what are your options and what could the possible time frame be to getting pre-approved. All right, step number three. Once you have your approval in hand, now is the fun part. Here's when you can start going and home shopping. So together, again, with your realtor, you are going to, first and foremost, you really want to hone in on a location. Yes, so for example, I'm in Tampa, but Tampa's huge. We have several different areas, and so I sometimes have buyers that are like, I have no idea where I want to go. There's certain questions you can ask to kind of hone in, but you really want to have an area where you want to buy. Because if you're looking at several different cities, can get very overwhelming, and I've seen buyers burn out and get discouraged. Okay, so you have your pre-approval, you have your location, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but you have to have a signed agreement with your realtor, which is why I said talk to a few, see who you feel comfortable with, because you will have to have a buyer agreement signed in order to view houses in the state of Florida. So now you have all the fun stuff. It's time to start looking at homes. And something food for thought, before you start looking at homes, have a list. Have a list of your must haves. Like, I must have 3 bedrooms, or I must have 1,500 square feet. Whatever your non negotiables are, have those written down, and don't shy away from those. But be flexible, know what your non negotiables are. And then also write down your wants, your not needs, your wants and your things that are fun to have. So if you're a growing family and you need extra space, that would be your non negotiable. If you love to play with cars, but you don't need a 3 car garage, that would be, a fun, want, so to speak, but maybe you do need a 2 car garage. So make sure you have that list and have that in mind as you're previewing homes. So you walked into the home of your dreams. Now what? Step number 4, you're ready to put an offer in. So what now? So you're going to sit with your realtor and you're going to go over the terms that you're comfortable with. Please keep in mind, I work out of the state of Florida, so the things discussed here are relevant to the state of Florida. So one of the first things you're going to want your realtor to do is to run what we call comps, comparables. They're going to look at the most recent sold homes in that neighborhood to kind of give you a range of, hey, is this home priced correctly? Where, what are you approved for? What are you comfortable offering? What is the seller asking? So these are conversations you're going to have with your agent. You're also going to look at the next piece, which is your escrow deposit. Your escrow deposit is a good faith deposit that you give to you don't give it to the seller. You usually give it to a title company or an attorney. Typically here in Florida, it's a title company, a third party that holds it. And essentially, it's a good faith offer saying, hey, we love your home. We're putting an offer in. Please remove your home from the market. We're ready to move forward with it. And to clarify, your escrow deposit goes toward your closing costs or your down payment typically at closing. So it is your money. It's just a good faith offer, to the seller that a title company or attorney holds. So moving on, I don't know, I guess we can consider this step number 5 is your inspection. An inspection should have a video of its own. So essentially, you have what's called an inspection period, again, in the state of Florida. And during that inspection, you will have a licensed inspector come out and inspect the home. There are also different types of inspections you can have. Not going to get into that here, but once you've done the inspection and the inspector gives you the inspection report back, you will regroup with your realtor, with the inspector. You discuss the findings and decide, hey, there may be some repairs needed, or just regroup and figure out what direction you want to take from there. Moving on to step number 6. So once you move past your inspection period, you are going to have an appraisal done, unless you're doing cash. But in this case, we're talking about being pre-approved. So if you're pre-approved, you're getting financing. So your loan officer, your lender, they're going to order an appraisal, and an appraiser is going to come out and inspect the home, which is why it's also important for your realtor in the beginning when you're submitting the offer to run comps, because most likely they're going to be very similar to the comps that the appraiser is going to be looking at. And so you want to make sure your offer is aligned with what their evaluation is going to be. So once the appraiser appraises a home, they're going to come back with their findings and their evaluation of what the home is worth and what the bank is willing to give you in terms of a loan. So from there, either the home appraises or it doesn't. And from there, you regroup and figure out, okay, the home appraised, we keep on moving to the next step. And if the home doesn't appraise, then again, as in the inspection, you regroup and figure out, okay, home didn't appraise, what do we do now? And one more thing to note, the appraisal and the inspection, they're two separate things, but they are costs to the buyer. So as a buyer, these are costs that you're going to come out of pocket up front to pay for your appraisal and your inspection, which highly, highly recommend and highly advise to always have an inspection on a home. Please never buy a home without getting an inspection. We're almost at the end. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please hit like and subscribe. And if there's any real estate topics you'd like me to cover, please leave them in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to talk about it. Step number 7, you've made it to the closing table. So that means your loan is fully approved, you passed all the conditions, and you're ready to sign. But before you sign, to get your keys, you're going to have what's called a final walkthrough. You're going to walk through the home with your agent. You're going to make sure that all the agreed upon items that are supposed to be there are still there. And after you've done your final walkthrough, you get to go to the title company, you sign your papers, and you get your keys, and you're officially closed. You're officially a homeowner. Now what? Just kidding. We'll save that for another video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for sticking through this whole video. If you found it helpful in any way, please like, subscribe, and share with someone else that would find it helpful. Until next time, I'm Janina, your Tampa real estate bestie. Bye.